right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Coavera, formerly Pipeline or CRM, joining you from a sunny San Diego, actually quite a humid San Diego, which is unusual. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Debbie Qaqish, who is across in Pensacola, Florida. How are you doing, Debbie?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, John?
Good. I'm not going to complain about the weather because I know you're facing into some extreme weather conditions down there. So we'll, fingers crossed. Hopefully, by the time this goes out in a couple of weeks, it'll all be behind you. And you've spent your career really ahead of where marketing is going and where it's going wrong. You know, you coined the term revenue marketing in 2011. You helped shift the industry from vanity metrics to revenue accountability. You're the founder today of The Growth Factor. You pair deep marketing expertise and science of positive psychology to help leaders and teams think more clearly, decide better, and perform at their best under pressure. And you're also award-winning author, speaker, and educator, and host of Revenue Marketing Raw. And your core thesis is quite a straightforward, even a blunt one. The next competitive advantage is not a better tech stack, it's human performance when the stakes are highest.
That's right.
And I think this is such a timely discussion because let's face it, Debbie, it's now with AI and all, the stakes have never been higher, really.
And again, depending on where you work, but
Sure.
whether you're in sales or marketing, we are living right now in an always on world. We're living in a world where change is not sporadic, it is constant. And the pressure associated with that is creating all kinds of negative behaviors and negative feelings and negative life for our sales and our marketing professionals. Biologically, we are not wired to be working like this. And so with everything that we have going on, sales and marketing, especially sales, have always been such high pressure worlds. But now AI is, accelerating that, tipping it into new levels of constant change. And so, that stress that is there, that constant change that is there, is really helping us rethink what do our employees need to actually thrive at work? How can they survive? How can they perform? How will they want to stay with us and keep that job? That's kind of the world that we're in right now.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And it is a great level of stress. And obviously, part of it too is I think we've lived in this world for the last while, like Debbie, where I hear people tell me all the time, "Oh, I'm the busiest I've ever been. I'm so overwhelmed." And my comeback is always, are you really though? Or are you just more distracted than you've ever been in your life? And I think that's more to the point, is you're more distracted. And now you layer in this, the AI on top and all these rapid changes. And you are now putting yourself in a situation where, yes, you're feeling a lot of stress because guess what? You're unprepared and you're not doing the work to prepare yourself and you're not looking at the advantages of it. You're allowing yourself to operate in this distracted world, and the get out of jail free card is, I'm so busy.
You're not busy. You are absolutely right. You are distracted, and this is this is part of the main culprit that we have. And I think that and I think you're absolutely right. They're not necessarily busier, but they have no downtime in their brain. There's zero quiet time. There's zero not looking for that next dopamine rush, on social media. And I think if we take a look at our sales and marketing professionals being that constantly distracted, being that constantly not in the present, because you literally can't think because your brain has been hijacked by your amygdala, right? We need to find ways that we can help our employees perform in this new world. Because think about it, John, we were talking about this a little bit before the show. We're living in unprecedented times with AI, and we have not given our employees this, what I call this new playbook. How do you thrive in constant change and stress? How do you do that? Because that's the job now. right? And again, we used to have episodic change, and now it's constant. It never ends. And I don't care what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're just beginning your world of work, and sometimes those types of employees are even more distracted having grown up in the world that we're in. And so I think we need to really think about, it's a new world for our employees, whether they be sales or whether they be marketers, and how do we best prepare them to thrive in this new world that we're talking about?
Yeah, and think and Debbie, and I know you've come across this, but think about it. The first place with AI obviously was marketing got every tool under the sun. It was going to do, and you think about, you have these people who are sitting in marketing, and we're all guilty of this. Suddenly we're firing every tool at them, every email we get, like, oh, brand new tool that does this, this, and this, and we're firing it at them and saying, check this out. Do we really need to do that anymore? Do we need this? Because this tool can do it. And we're just, and there's no strategy behind it. And we're just piling stuff onto these people, and we're expecting them to go, oh, cool. And they're going, I can't take this. There's too many, you're bringing too many tools to me. I can't even figure out what this one does, let alone that one. And then there's another one coming tomorrow that says it does more than those two.
We're tool happy. There's no question about it. And that's true in both sales and
I'm just saying marketing, it was first. Sales came
marketing was absolutely first. And here's what I find interesting about that. If you reflect on this tool frenzy, it really is about helping to address the transactional layer of the work, whether it be in sales or marketing, right? And so one of the things that AI is doing for us is that whole transaction layer is going away. AI and your AI agents will be doing all of that, right? So again, back to what's left in the job. And it is not about the next tool. It is about the human element becoming more important than ever before. If you think about a salesperson, for example, and this was really interesting. We were doing a revenue marketing raw thing, and we were talking about the sales organization. And one of the things that I've seen is that we know that discovery call with the potential client is very important. And again, it needs to be a very astute, tuned in salesperson to be really, really good at that. But guess what they're having to do now because of AI? They have to maybe reset expectations with that client. They maybe think they're going down this path for one thing because all they've had is an interaction with AI. So the salesperson has another job now. It's not an extension of a conversation with AI. It's, let's make sure that we're on the same page before we go to the next level. That takes judgment, right? That's just not like looking at a script and saying something. That takes judgment. That takes emotional regulation. That takes understanding, right? And that is the kind of salesperson, or the same kind of thing for marketing, that is going to make them successful in this age of AI. And that's why we say the age of AI heightens the need for human performance.
Yeah, no, it really does. And we were talking a little bit about sales methodology before coming on here. But yeah, that's one of the things. And going back to my old spin selling days or whatever. But when you're having that initial conversation, right? So think about this: if AI was doing it, right? The first time you surface as a prospect, you surface something that matches something that we can solve, right? Some problem, some illusion to problem. I guarantee you AI would jump on that and go flying with it, right? And start saying how we could solve that problem. And that's what rookie salespeople often do. Problem being, as you know yourself, the problem being, the reality is the first problem you surface may be one that you can live with, one that you don't care about. It just happened to be top of mind. But if I jump on it and decide this is it, that's it, I can sell my product based on that, I'm now going down this rabbit hole, and I'm never going to sell to you because I jumped in too quickly and it wasn't an issue that you cared enough about. And this is where the human part comes in.
Yeah. Here's another example of the human part. Again, if we say AI is the age of focusing on humans or human performance, right? One of the things that's more important now than ever before is authenticity. And AI can certainly obliterate that, right? or it can help it. But here's one of the things that I'm seeing, right? And this is going to be so important for a salesperson when they are in, especially toward the closing stages of a deal. And that is because of AI, because the prospect can get so much information, so many other places, what they really want is proof.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. They want proof in a way that they've never wanted it before because they are so much more educated around what's happening and also around the options.
Yeah.
And think about the salesperson that needs to engage in that kind of conversation. What kind of proof? Why is it important? What would that do to help the deal? What would that do to help the customer? Right? And so, I think that, and again, this whole idea of authenticity, which again, salespeople need to be able to bring once they're actually in that conversation. This idea of, because we have a much more informed prospect, this idea of proof really shows us that in the age of AI, that salesperson must be able to have judgment, wisdom, critical thinking skills, empathy, self-regulation, self-management. All those things we learn from EQ and all those things that we learn from positive psychology becomes more important than ever before.
Yeah. The most human of human traits, right?
It is. It absolutely is.
And I think that's the thing is, like, if we start to focus in and we start to say AI is phenomenal, AI could do all of these things and it's fantastic. And now the most human of human traits are the place that I need to focus. That's where I need to build up, because that combination of AI and that human element is going to be is so powerful. But yeah, you're right. I was just writing down trust, the proof, the authenticity. Those are, and those become even more important the more technology gets involved, right? Because I mean, it's like even I've been getting phone calls lately, and after about 2, they're all, oh, hello, John, they're really excited. And after a couple of seconds, I'm going, you're AI, aren't you? And then they go, yes, I am. And then, but I'm like, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I'm hung up, I'm gone. And it's not the fact that maybe they couldn't have solved my problem there, but my problem was that they pretended they weren't AI.
Exactly.
If they had come on and said, hey, I'm calling the AI, I'd be like, okay, well, let me see how effective this is. And going back to your point, I think people's trust antenna is really high. The authenticity antenna is really high. So those are areas to focus on, but also be open and honest about your use of AI.
You absolutely, totally. Everybody knows, everybody uses it from every angle possible. And you should be open and honest with it. And I think that when you try to spoof that, but you lose a lot of credibility. You lose a lot of trust in the market and also with your clients. I recently was reading about a story where one particular brand did fake AI content creators, right, promoting their brand. How bad is that? That's just bad.
It's just bad. Yeah, that's just silly. And actually, the funny thing that you were just saying about that whole thing on proof points and everything, that's now happening. There's been quite a subtle change in the last while about how the market is even treating AI technologies and stuff that are coming out and tools and all of that. Is before it was all the hype and it was just excitement. Now people are saying prove it. Prove that you can actually do that. Prove that actually works. And so that's a good thing, because now it's putting a little bit of pressure on the people who are flooding the market with tools that they're going to have to prove that they work.
And it also puts a lot of pressure on the entire organization, because think about the marketing organization has to tell a story that's coming from the company and that's coming from product development, right? And then sales has to interact with people, with that same story. So they have to get their shit together up the line, or you can't possibly be authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's 100%. And so, so it's coming from everywhere now. It's like there's the pressure on the technology providers to prove that their solutions work and show evidence in a way that wasn't before. And it's same with us. There's an onus on us to prove that we are more, tuned in and trustworthy than we've ever been before. But it is interesting though, is how do you advise leadership in an organization, right, to help their people? Because, like I said, I mean, people are overwhelmed. There's a lot of tools, a lot of expectations. Like, everybody has to work under pressure, and then there's the real. I mean, people feel insecure in their roles and everything now, and that's a natural human thing. So the onus is on leadership. Is how do you get the best out of your people in a circumstance when there's so many factors coming together?
I think you have to call bullshit when you see it. And
Hmm.
let me tell you exactly what I mean by that, John.
Hmm.
This not having a second to breathe, to step back, to
Hmm.
plan, to think, to strategize has got to go, right? It has got to go. And I understand Wall Street. I understand expectations,
Hmm.
but you have competitors coming from you, the likes of which you have never seen. And so I think the first thing that you have to do is to say, we need to spend more time creating space to think and to plan and to, quite frankly, reimagine your business,
Yeah.
right? And if you have a leadership team that has their heads in the sand on this, I'm sorry, go find another company to work for, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, and I've seen, it's almost like the more traditional the organization, the less innovative they are. The less they try to catch up. So I think the first thing is for any leader is you must find space to breathe and to strategize. That's number one. Okay.
Hmm.
Number two, I think that you need to recognize that the current work environment that we have today is unprecedented.
Hmm.
This always on, never stopping, constantly distracted, always connected is toxic.
Yes.
And we have never helped our employees learn how to manage and navigate these new environments of constant change and constant stress, right?
Yeah.
You found in your recent study that in the world of AI, revenue driven AI, that EQ, emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
was one of the most essential things. We have to help our employees, our teams, we have to give them the skills so that they can navigate the stress and thrive at work. And these skills are totally available. They're
Yeah.
available through EQ, they're available through positive psychology. Positive psychology at work is becoming a huge thing right now because who doesn't want to give their team better ways to manage stress and thrive at work? Who
Yeah.
doesn't want to do that?
Yeah. Exactly.
It equals to better performance. So I think it's, understand the environment that they're in and understand that the old things that you've done, a reorg, a new piece of technology, a new process, none of that's going to work for this. It is about these, how do we prepare the inner skills of our people so they can be successful in this world that we live in right now? The
Yeah.
human element is more important than ever before. We've always placed a high worth on the human element in work, but it's just becoming so much more important. And we have to help develop these inner strengths so that they can be successful in this environment. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit of a different thinking and finding some space.
No, I think it's really profound, and it's something that leaders have to get their heads around. Exactly like you said, that this is, we're treating people like machines, right? As you said, always on, always connected, and we're treating like we're just servers that are constantly operating, instead of being complex
Mhm.
human beings. And the always on, the always. I mean, I find that hard myself, Debbie, when looking at. I mean, you say we don't address this with our employees. We don't even address this with our kids. If you think about the kids growing up today, can you imagine growing up in a world where you're constantly connected and everybody knows where you are, what you're doing at all time? I mean, that's a
We're
pressure.
seeing devastating study results about the impact on brain development in our children who are in this always on world. And John, this all comes down to basic biology. We are not wired because, we still have a lizard brain. Let's put it that way. We still have a lizard brain. We still have caveman reactions, and constant change, always on, puts us in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And it's mostly freeze, right? Our thinking shuts down, our clarity, our judgment, our prefrontal cortex is completely not working, right? We can't make any good decisions. And that is the constant state that we work in right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we have set up, and that's the other thing too, is, because I mean, I grew up in corporate, my business educated in corporate America. And what have we done in corporate America and replicated in most of the world now was we celebrate stress. We celebrate first in, last out. We celebrate all these things. And then we wonder why people, burn out or their performance starts to go down. And again, it's like, can you imagine in most companies, right? If you took over a company tomorrow and you walked in and you said, every day between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, everybody has to go out for a walk on their own without their phone. I don't care where you go, but you can't bring your phone. 30 minutes, whatever, walk around, come back to your desk. I want you during that period. I want you during that period to do it on your own, not with someone else. Do it on your own, and I want you to just smell the roses.
Some things. And what's so fascinating about what you just said, we have all these, common things that, that just kind of make sense. But all of this is based in neuroscience, and it's based in a lot of studies in the world of positive psychology. And these are things that actually work. They actually physically affect your nervous system and your brain, so that you can come back to work sharper with more clarity. I mean, it's just physical thing that happens in your body.
So what would you do? Here's just it dawned on me, Debbie. So what would most people do in an organization remember back in the day when we used to have server rooms and machines, but if you saw somebody's computer on their desk with smoke coming out of it, overheating and everything, what would you do? Would you just ignore it and you'd say, cool, that's work, I guess is excellent, this is working? Or would you say, crap, I better unplug this, let it cool down, and then fix it so we can get it back to you? But with the humans, we're okay. We basically leave humans, we're in flames. And it's like, oh yeah, that's good. You're bringing the heat. I love that
analogy. I'm going to borrow it, John. That is a perfect analogy. First of all, the reason I think we haven't addressed it like that is we know it's there.
Yeah.
We know it's happening. We just don't know what to do about it, right? Because, and again, the answer is, I'm sorry, it's leaning into not woo-woo, but neuroscience and positive psychology and emotional intelligence, right? I mean, that's what we need right now. It's not another process. It's not another reorg. It's not another piece of technology. It's not a new VP. It's none of those things, right? Because we live in a toxic world we're not biologically prepared for. We have to train our brain so that we can thrive in this new world.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100. That you couldn't have put it better myself. And like I said, the thing is, realize that human beings, we're all human beings. We're all living a human experience. We know what that is. It comes with constant things out of left field, medical issue, whatever, with stress, money, whatever. There's tons of stuff going on. We've got so much pressure in our lives that we literally are on. If we're on fire, we're melting down. We're not going to be very productive. And we have to start understanding that it's always been like this. But the world we're in today now with AI, it's knocked this up it's dialed this up. Haven't dialed it up to 11. I guess it's up to 12 now. I guess.
I agree. Really agree. If not 20. Honestly. Yeah.
Shout out to Spinal Tap, still one of my all-time favorite movies. But yeah, absolutely. And we have to understand, that just like machines and other things, as humans only have a certain amount of ability to absorb these things before they shut down.
That's right. Before they shut down, before they leave, before they quit quietly, before they have to start taking drugs for depression, before they have to seek therapy. I mean, it's the the mental health of our employees is at an all-time low. No question about that.
It is, and I think that's it. And I think that is to me, in finishing, I still think that is the most ignored, overlooked thing in society, I think, but also in work particularly, is everybody shies away from the mental health thing because nobody wants to deal with it. Because as I always say, if you come in, if you hobble into work tomorrow with the cast on your leg, right? Everybody say, "Oh, what happened? Yeah, I broke my leg," blah blah blah. They don't go look at you and then kind of go, "Ooh, you must have weak bones. I better steer clear of you." But if you come in with the and say, "Oh yeah, I've been having some mental health issues and whatever," people immediately change their attitude. They go, "Oh, you're weak. You're a weak person," or you're unstable, or I can't really trust you. But if you come in with the physical injury, they're like, "Oh, that's fine."
That's exactly right. John, and I've shared this story many times. I have a history of debilitating depression in my life, right?
Right.
And also ADHD. And, it took me a long time to kind of work through that and resolve it. And so I'm a huge advocate of talking about mental health. And being okay with it. And again, we're not trying to be therapists or anything like that, but this comes back to the world of work right now. It is so toxic, and we're not doing anything to alleviate that situation for our employees. And there are easy things to do. There are practical skills that we can teach that help them navigate and thrive this always on world that we're in. And it helps them not just at work, but in their lives as well.
Yeah. And just in final, I mean, you haven't done all this work and studied the psychology and all of this. Let's face it, what is the biggest thing that throws people off is change, right? Change is, it's this kind of weird human paradox that we have, is that we live in a world of constant change, but we hate change. Right? We try to control that change, even though we can.
And even good change is bad. Think about, like I always give the example. Think about the day you got married. Probably should have been one of the happiest days of your life. Probably one of the most stressful days of your life. Right?
Exactly.
Right? So
yeah. And so so I think that's something that we have to really start to remember and address and make that more central. So listen, this has been fantastic. And Debbie, I know we could go much longer, but all of Debbie's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
I actually help sales and marketing teams navigate and thrive in constant change and stress.
Yeah, and so I'd recommend you go check it out, because I place. I'm not a betting person generally, but I would put a huge amount of money on the fact that I guaranteed your sales and marketing organizations are very stressed right now. You may not even realize it, but I guarantee you, I honestly don't think I'd be proved wrong by almost any.
Agreed.
All right, well, listen, thanks again, Debbie. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again very soon.